Is this a good idea or is not a good idea? Well, let's find out what's a good idea. What do you think's a good idea, Paulie? Should I tell everybody to wear masks? Should I tell them all just to keep it on their face?
If we wear masks for 3 months, we can save 40,000 lives.
Welcome to Can He Be Unchained? You're here once again with your big-headed host. The noggin is large, Kenny Brawner. And I'm here in a new location today. Hey, we're getting fancy with it, switching up spots. Now, not just at the home or at the office. Now we're here at my buddy Paulie's house. Say hi, Paulie.
What's going on, everybody?
Hey. Only been friends with this dude since what?
3rd grade?
So we're talking like 25 years here? So yeah, somebody's put up with this huge noggin for 25 years and didn't run away yet. That's shocking for sure. You don't see that every day. Today's date is August 14th, 2020. We're still in this year. This year is still happening. This chaos is still happening. Everything is attacking at once. We're in the middle of an ideological war. If you didn't notice, if you didn't take a look outside, everybody's battling over their ideas and they're not exactly having the conversations and not exactly relying on facts whatsoever. I think the Democrat Party pretty much just gave up on facts altogether. I think they just said, okay, Trump has lied this many thousands times on their fake list that they create, and they're like, we're just going to start telling lies on our own. They don't even fact check Joe Biden, who's going for the presidency, which is absolutely insane to think about. Because some of the stuff he said recently was just, so far off. You don't know what to even think or to even say about it. But one thing that's hysterical, and I'm going to post this picture up on the page. Now that he selected his VP, Kamala Harris and Biden, you got a lot of pictures starting to happen, and these pictures are hysterical. Kamala does not look like a VP. She looks like a home health aide, and Biden looks like the patient. It's funny. It's funny. I'm gonna have have my artist doing some details on some of those pictures, so we're gonna show those in a little bit. You know, Kamala in scrubs and Biden in his hospital gown, because that's how they look. That's how they look together on camera. I mean, am I wrong?
Pretty much.
It's too funny. It's too funny to even think about. Like, he selects the person that was directly attacking him, insinuating that he's a racist, like directly to his face, and then throughout the election campaign, he says all this racist stuff. Remember, you ain't black if you don't vote for Joe Biden. And Trump's the racist. That's what's crazy about it. They say Trump's the racist, but every single thing you pull up when you're talking about Trump's supposed racism, every single one can be debated and shut down. Every single one of them. You bring up the Mexicans or rapist stuff, all you gotta do is change the there to THEIR, and then it's like, okay. So, and if you pay attention to the whole conversation, he's saying they're not bringing their best people. They're bringing this, and they're bringing their rapists too. So, makes sense, especially with the child trafficking that goes on. And you don't want to go into those stories. What's wild is I just finally started seeing the QAnon thing starting to tick off. If you don't know about the QAnon thing, it's basically like a huge conspiracy page for the right, and now they're starting to post it on CNN, MSNBC. So I'm starting to think maybe these guys are starting to get a little scared about it. Maybe there's some truth to some of the stuff they're saying, especially since we just had one person in the Mueller investigation, one of the FBI agents finally pled guilty, and that's supposed to be huge news. But they start throwing everything else at the mainstream, and then what happens? This gets put to the wayside. It's like, this is serious. This is a serious thing. The Obama administration spied on the Trump campaign. That's fact now. Spied on. And they were talking about how Trump was colluding with another country to interfere in the election. Obama was colluding with media sources and with high-level agents in the FBI to interfere in the 2016 election. And he wasn't successful, but he still committed those acts. And who else was on the roll with those acts? You got Biden and you got all the higher-ups that they're all in it. But you got the DNC convention coming up, and I am betting that Trump is probably holding some sort of card for right when that's going on. Maybe they're going to start doing the arrests right then and there. while the convention's going on. That would be a huge hit to the entire Democrat Party, and we could finally see those races get eliminated if we could. So yeah, Biden selects Kamala Harris. So why did he make this selection? If you think about it, because she's black. I mean, I guess he likes his VPs like he likes his coffee. Black. Like a latte. She's like a caramel color, so she's like what? A vanilla chai latte? What's funny about her is like there was a CNN interview. I think it was Don Lemon, of course, the biggest racist on CNN. Don Lemon was debating with somebody else if Kamala is really black. Like, that was legit on TV. I'm not even joking. I don't know if you've seen it. They were debating.
Can she say she's black? Would she get reparations? Her family's from Jamaican and she's Indian.
It's like, you kidding me? That's the debate they had. They were just arguing her blackness. You're not black enough. She is black enough. You're not black enough. Like, come on. That's insane. That's insane to think about. But they did it. That's CNN for you. And this is supposed to be one of the fair news networks, but they're totally out there in like La La Land. I don't know what they're doing, what they're thinking. And then you got Biden with his home health aide, Kamala. They're going to be touring the countryside, not answering any questions. You get that? That's ridiculous.
What?
Trump, every single day, he probably has 2 or 3 different press conferences every single day. All right? With every single one, he's always answering questions. What does Biden do? He shows face, says something, throws Kamala at the front of the screen, and then they say, peace. And they kick all the media out of the room. They did that. That's what they did. That's how they made the announcement. He called for a national mask mandate right away, showing how he's going to be tyrannical with his presidency. Because that's tyranny if he's going to force a mandate. What is this mandate going to be for? Like there's a ton of questions that could be asked by the media, but like they're not taking questions. They're just saying what they're going to say, and then just you got to accept it. So what kind of questions would you think you're going to ask? Okay, so we're going to have a national mask mandate. So what would be the first thing you think? Oh, we're going to have to, if I'm not wearing a mask and I'm caught, am I going to have to pay a fine? So is this going to be enforced? Are we going to have our police officers enforce a mask mandate? And then what's going to be the fine? What if somebody can't get a mask? What if they're so poor they can't afford a mask? It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's another dumb idea. So, like, he's just doing it because he sees polls. Like, this is what Democrats do. They poll everything in like, different, like, focus groups. Is this a good idea or is that a good idea? Well, let's find out what's a good idea. What do you think's a good idea, Paulie? Thought I tell everybody to wear masks? Thought I tell them all just to keep it on their face?
If we wear masks for 3 months, we could save 40,000 lives.
You have no proof of that. You can't say that's actually going to happen. What are you thinking? Like, come on, old man. Like, we're supposed to trust Biden when he can't even remember what town he's in.
What's the total worldwide anyway? Isn't that only
the total worldwide for cases or for deaths?
For deaths, only like 200,000 or something.
United States last I checked was like 140 something, and world was like I forget. World was like 500,000.
Now.
What was it, 500,000 for the world? I don't know, but we'll check that out.
I don't know what it's looking at.
But I'll be on Twitter, and when we start talking COVID and all that, I always like to go after the statistics that actually matter, that can actually help people make a better decision on what they're going to do when they're moving forward, right? So you're going to want to understand what the average age of death is, the average age of mortality. And last I checked, it's still around 78, 80 years old, somewhere right around that mark. So the median of people dying is around 80 years old. So what does that tell you? That tells you that that's like how it all averages out. Right there, 80 years old. So a lot of people that are dying, they're older than 80 and they're a little bit younger than 80. So what does it mean for us? That means we need to still be aware of the elderly, obviously. And we still need to take precautions when we're dealing with them. And them themselves have to take precautions. But the other thing I was reading is if you're 50 and under, you really don't stand much of a risk at all for mortality. So what is the justification for shutting down the entire country if those statistics ring true, right? Definitely look them up for yourself. But that's one of the things, like with COVID, it's just from the beginning I was very sketched out about it because I don't know, it just seems so off, seems so weird that we're gonna shut down the entire country for an illness, and it just didn't make sense to me. I mean, I get it initially, kind of, because they wanted to beat the initial curve, and then after we beat the curve, of course, the Democrat tyrants don't want to give up power. Like that's what's really sad, because like we beat the curve. Everywhere around the world they beat the curve. And yeah, I'm spinning a hanger because I'm at my buddy Paulie's house and I found this on his desk, and this is what he does. He works and he spins hangers. Right, Paulie?
You know it, man.
This is like half your job.
That's how you focus.
He types with one and goes like this with the other.
You're not doing it good enough.
Got to get speed, you got to get velocity, and you got to watch out for your own eye too, right?
So looking at some numbers, it looks like COVID has killed, according to this one website, 767,000 people worldwide. That's what they're claiming as of now. And then if you want to talk about the flu, if you're curious, the flu estimates are 291,000 to 646,000 worldwide each year of deaths. And that's an estimate.
So a little bit more deadly than the flu. And then I just wonder what the flu rates are for this year.
What's weird is that the flu has such a giant estimate range, but yet COVID is like very specific and accurate.
Mm-hmm.
But we know that a lot of those deaths aren't actually COVID deaths.
Yeah.
But it's just weird that they don't have an estimate on it. They just kind of throw you, this is the exact number.
Mm-hmm.
Weird that they don't have a range.
Yeah, and then you see the media, and like all they do is they post about the cases. The cases, the cases, the cases. Meanwhile, the cases now are going to be different from the cases in March, because March we didn't really know how to treat this, but now we kind of know how to treat it. So those death rates are going to range too. And if you look at a line graph, you see it jump up, dip, and then kind of like stay low, even when the cases kept going up. So that's one thing that shows you that we beat the curve, and we're able to treat this. Now we still have more work to do.
So if you want to talk about the cases, here's an interesting number. So going back to the flu, for the 2019 to 2020 flu season, the CDC, this is from the CDC, reports 13 million flu cases thus far.
Mm.
That's way higher than I believe COVID is. I could be wrong.
Was that this year?
Yeah. Let me see what COVID is. Now, I don't remember what COVID is up to right now.
So it's saying 13 million flu cases this year. Okay, interesting. I was always kind of caught up thinking like maybe like a lot of the flu cases, they might be like down because they're counting them as COVID cases since a lot of the symptoms are similar.
So COVID, according to the same website, is 21.3 million confirmed cases.
How many flu cases are there typically each year?
So each year, typically, let me find that out. But yeah, so according to this year, it was 16 million apparently, but that's not far off from COVID. Not that far off.
No.
But the COVID, everything's being labeled COVID. Flu is estimated, and we don't know what the true number of COVID is. I mean, flu is, excuse me, because nobody cares about flu. You have the flu, it's like whatever. You get bed rest, take some Robitussin, let that tussin get down in the bones.
Get that tussin down to the bones.
Let that tussin get in there.
You go get that tussin, you gotta rub it down. You break your bone, get the tussin.
So the flu cases, to me, I feel like they're probably way higher than 16 million. But
And the COVID cases are going to be higher too, because how many people are reporting COVID right away? Some people might take it as a regular illness and just fight it out for a couple of days and get back to work. I mean, from what I've been hearing from some people that got sick, like this person next to me, you COVID patient. How long did that really last for you?
For me, it lasted like, I was sick for about probably a month and a half, maybe like a month.
Like sick like how?
But it wasn't sick of COVID. I was sick with COVID for maybe a week, and then I think it was like pneumonia, like bronchitis, and it was going away. But I kept doing stuff around my house. So I just had recently moved to my house. I had like tons of shit to do, so I started feeling better, started doing something, and then my cough would come back, and like I'd have like the congestion in your chest a little bit. Anything that's typical to like bronchitis or
Like
pneumonia.
upper respiratory almost.
Yeah, kind of like upper respiratory. But it wasn't, that portion of it wasn't COVID anymore. The COVID portion was, I had the fever for about an hour twice in one day, and that was it. My temperature really stayed about 97, so it was actually really low. I didn't really have a fever much at all. My stomach hurt a little bit in the beginning, and we just had, it felt like a head cold in the beginning, but really it was just headaches. It was just headaches the whole time, and you'd feel tired. And then we did lose our sense of smell and taste towards the end, but we weren't really sick anymore. But I kind of lost that towards the end of the week, and it lasted a couple of days and came back.
Yeah.
But it wasn't that bad. Honestly, it was, you could wake up and you would feel totally normal.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt like nothing was wrong with you. And then you'd feel like very tired. You'd get like a migraine headache for a while. That was pretty much it. Wasn't really coughing or anything like that during COVID. Only had a fever, like I said, one day. And it only happened twice for maybe an hour each. And it was a slight fever. It was like 100. Like 100, I think 100.7 or something like that. So it's not even a major fever. Wasn't much of anything. And I don't know.
It really just like messed up your lungs for a little bit, basically.
I mean, like I'm not trying to compare it to the flu. Honestly, the flu though to me was way worse. I would much rather have COVID than the flu. In terms of the symptoms that at least I had, to me it wasn't really much of anything. Take some aspirin and knock the headache out, kind of deal. That was about it. I mean, I think the biggest part about that is that it attacks your upper respiratory. So if it leads to pneumonia, or that's more deadly, especially for the older people, and that's why it's attacking older people so much more. But same for the flu. The flu does the same exact thing. It leads to something else.
Yeah, and the amount of people that die from a common cold because they already have pre-existing conditions, like that happens too. That's not happening at a great rate, but it's another thing that happens. But yeah, no. So I mean, I think I had like flu in January because I was recently tested for COVID and it didn't pull up that I had it or that anything like that. I mean, I don't know if it can tell you if you had it at one point, but I just remember I was messed up for like a whole week, fighting fevers every single day, and of course, like I'm a workaholic, so I always keep working through everything. Break the fever, and then get to work. And then just keep minding my temperature all day. That's how I've always done it. Workaholic here, 6 days a week, non-stop. So.
Well, no, an interesting COVID story though. We when we went to get tested, we first started feeling bad. We called up because like on the news they're saying that Stony Brook is doing these tests for free.
When was this?
This is like March, so like mid-March. So you have to go.
When it started, pretty much. Yeah.
So you have to call up, make a reservation. That's how they're going to do the testing. They're like, it's like an hour wait. So we call up. We're waiting on the phone for 2 hours. And they ended up hanging up on us. And we could never get through, which was weird. But we thought, oh, maybe the place is overrun. We kept hearing about the hospitals being packed. So we ended up going the next day up there just to see if they would take us by chance. And we go to the place. We show up. And it's like 10:30 in the morning. And they stop us, tell us we need that they can't let us in, they need a reservation, they don't have enough tests. And I looked around and there's nobody. We were the only car there. There was nobody around. And I thought that was kind of weird. I'm like, you need a reservation, you don't have enough tests. Like, I would understand all that. But now that I'm actually here and I'm looking around, there's nobody. I was like, there's no one around. So they tell us like, oh, you can get tested, but you have to do is go to the Stony Brook Hospital first, to the emergency room. And if they deem you bad enough, they'll send you back here, and you can come here after 11 o'clock to get tested. So we're like, okay, I guess that's what we'll do. We go to the ER, and there's like maybe, the ER is packed with maybe 12 people in it. And they were all there for COVID. There was nothing really else going on. And the people there didn't even seem like that worried about it. There was people in the back, workers there that didn't even have masks on. Nobody seemed to really care. And like they tested us. They did our temperature, which mine was like a 97 at that time. And so I didn't have a fever or anything. I felt kind of normal that day. So my wife had no fever. They put us through. They line us up in these chairs in the back with everybody else. And they just come, and we're in the middle of a hallway. It's not like they have us quarantined or anything. And they just give us paperwork. They make sure that they got our benefits first and sign us in. And then they give us a paper saying, oh, you can go over there. So at the end of the day, what ended up happening was the reservation system to me seemed like total bullshit. The free testing seemed like bullshit. We had to go to the hospital, to the emergency room. They had to run our insurance first, and then they would send us over. And they didn't check us for anything. They just said, what are you feeling? Check our temperature, and then here's the paper, and they sign you over. And they sent everybody over. All, 12 people that were there, all got sent over.
Mm.
Didn't matter if you were, deathly ill, if you came in there totally normal. I could have came in there totally normal, and they still would have sent me. And, yeah, so it was just weird. I go over there, and there really wasn't, many people in this thing. It just didn't seem like... They said there's not enough tests, but, I mean... We were there for a while, and I saw just the same people I saw at the emergency room, and there was nobody... It was 10 people, 12 people.
Yeah, it's wild.
So, I don't know. To me, it kind of seemed bullshitty. It seemed... something about it seemed like it was off, and maybe COVID's not fake, but... I don't know. Definitely, that free testing and all that, it seemed like bullshit. The amount of people that they said were overrunning the hospitals didn't really seem like it.
And one of the things, this kind of fits with my I have a timeline thing, right? Because I pay attention to top politics for freaking eons. I've been glued to it as far as I can remember. So just going into this year, so we start off the year, they start pushing these impeachment hearings. I watched all endless hours of it. It just kept going on forever. When it was in the House, and when they brought it to the Senate, I watched the entire thing. So it started off, they put it all through the House in December. Didn't really start hearing it or bringing it to the Senate for 3 weeks later. I don't know why they were holding it up. I'm guessing they might have had some sort of timeline thing with 2020 being an election year. So then you go straight to the impeachment thing after they forced it through the House through partisan votes when they didn't even have any evidence. Then they bring it to the Senate, and of course it gets shut down because they didn't have any evidence, and then they're crying how they need witnesses. And then it goes from there straight to COVID. And they're fighting the president because he issues a ban right away. They fight him on that, calling him all sorts of names. And you notice every single time Trump does anything, they just do nothing but call him a bunch of names. So they're really a bunch of bullies. That's what it boils down to. You want your whole anti-bullying campaigns, look in your face. So then they go straight to the COVID thing. And then we beat the curve. And then what happens? Riots. So it almost seems like this has been all part of the playbook kind of thing. Not to try to diminish the COVID deaths or whatnot, but how many of these deaths were caused by governors being irresponsible and shoving sick people into nursing homes? What are those numbers?
Didn't Cuomo do that?
Yeah, Cuomo did that. The great actor on COVID, right? They're hailing him like he did something great. Meanwhile, you compare the population here to Florida, and you look at the deaths between here and Florida. It's dude, you screwed up so bad, you should have been resigning from your position. That's how bad he did with this whole COVID thing.
The one thing I don't understand right now, too, is they're talking about how New York is a kind of a flagship of success with COVID and stuff. And it's not saying that we didn't have success, but the thing is, they're saying, oh, look how bad these other states are now. They're so bad, but we didn't have enough testing going on. Yeah. We don't know how long COVID was around. The first case that they found, the guy never traveled anywhere except home to work, and he would show up he would go through Grand Central. So that means that was already out amongst the population. Yep. So we don't know how bad it was in New York. The numbers could have been quadruple what they are in Florida or California right now or Arizona or wherever. Easily. And we don't know. So we're trying to say that how much of a success we are, but Florida, for instance, could be only a small footprint of what New York was. We don't know.
And how many people could have been like how I handle illness, where I get a fever and I just look to break the fever and get back to work. How many people had COVID but never were tested? So you can have this huge range, just like you're here with the flu. There's probably a huge range, and we're somewhere in between there. Right? And then how many of these deaths are 100% COVID? Or are they something where they had chest issues, lung issues, heart issues?
What's sad with all this too is
the rest of the way.
Is how much they politicized the whole thing. Mm-hmm. Where, from no matter what it was, they even with the supplies, when Trump said, he's not gonna send enough supplies. He's not gonna send for instance, let's say the New York was we want 10 respirators. He's like, no, you're only getting 4. Why would you need 10? And it turns out that they didn't even need the 4 respirators.
No.
So and they were bashing him for not sending enough. Which, all right, in the beginning maybe it seems like that's going to be true, but once we find out that he was right, now all of a sudden people are still trying to bash him for still that he should have took the precaution of sending all this. Meanwhile, they were asking for not even double what they needed, almost triple. Almost 75% more than what they needed, 80% more than what they needed.
And then you got to look at what he did.
But he actually got it right.
He got a ship that was not prepared to be ready to go anywhere. He got that medical ship. I forget the name of the ship, but it was a really cool looking ship. It has a big red cross on the side of it. It was like, and it was supposed to not be ready for a month, and then he rushed everything to get it ready in a couple days, and he sent it to New York.
He said, and what's funny is he said it would be here in 2 weeks, and they bashed him saying this, it'll never get here in 2 weeks. There's no chance in hell, and it got here in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So it's just like the politicizing of all this is kind of stupid. Like I get the Democrat versus Republican crap that goes on, but at the same time, like people got to see through this shit and just call a spade, and just be like, listen, you might be a Democrat, you might hate Republicans, but like you got to see through it and be like, all right, this is bullshit. I'm literally arguing about something that the guy was right about, or just listen to the bullshit that they give you. Oh, he'll never get here in 2 weeks, and it shows up in 2 weeks. And it's like, well, you're just fishing for shit to talk about. You're just fishing for shit to complain about. And
they just want to complain. They just want to bitch about this guy, and even when he's doing a good job, they have nothing to say. They try to point out whatever bad thing they can kind of mouth off, or any sort of angle that they can get on him, and it leaves you to wonder why. Like, why would they go to this level? It's like that what they're doing is actually harming our country. They're misinforming their viewers. Now, I'm a firm believer that these media outlets, they should have to come back within a short period of time to, like, correct the record, or they should face mass lawsuits. They should face mass lawsuits for misinforming the public. I mean, Trump, they act like Trump had this horrible response to this. Oh, the worst response to a pandemic ever. Oh.
Well, how are you supposed to respond to a pandemic?
You don't know. You don't know what you're getting hit with.
What could he have done differently?
He closed down the borders right away. He shut down travel from China. He shut down travel from Europe. Then, when things were starting to hit the fan, he sent ships to hotspot areas that were going to get hit. He had hospitals erected. He passed different. He sped up all the processes to get PPE made. He went to private companies and got them to start making all the stuff we need. And he ran around trying to get different treatments together. Then told you about hydroxychloroquine way back when and it's actually been helping people curb death. And like, what else could he have done? What else could have been done?
Oh my God, you made me think about that woman who who said her and her husband took the hydrochloroquine from the aquarium cleaner.
Oh my God, yeah, somebody did that.
And then he tried putting that on Trump. It was like, come on, let's just call people stupid. You can't fix stupid.
And then the bleach thing. The bleach thing was unbelievable.
What's the bleach thing? I never heard that one.
Oh, this one was insane. So in one of the pressers, because he was denying science, doing pressers every single day with doctors behind him, denying science. How? What? Do you have eyes? Do you have ears? Like, I don't understand how people can honestly say he was denying science. It doesn't make any sense. So he's talking about how, like, using disinfectants for your hands, like, oh yeah, that could help protect you from this. And he's like, wouldn't it be nice if we had some sort of, like, treatment that disinfects the body? And they took it to say, like, he's talking about injecting bleach. Like, I don't know how you can listen to those words.
Injecting bleach.
And think injecting bleach. Now, I know a lot of, like, conservatives, they were, like, playing with it and throwing it out there, like, as, like, a ha-ha funny kind of thing. But, like, these people were taking it serious. It's like, come on. Like, wake up. Wake up. They're not saying that. Get out of here. Get out of town. Watch. Maybe when you hear a story, you should actually watch the words coming directly from the primary source. Don't listen to a tertiary source or a secondary source. Go straight to the person saying it out of his mouth first. Check that out. Try it happen once or twice, and then you'll actually see the truth.
Well, back to that COVID lady. Did you hear, like, the background story with her?
No, with the fish cleaner lady?
Yeah. Did you hear the background story about that?
No.
No, so that they think that she actually killed her husband. And that she was a Democrat, so she actually wasn't a Trump follower like everybody said.
Mm-hmm.
She was a Democrat. She had donated for Democrats, but she was like had charges up against from her husband for like abuse and other things and all this shit, and so she ends up like her husband takes it and dies, but she said that she did it, but they couldn't find anything in her blood or anything like that, and she was trying to put it on Trump and took the media, the media jumps on it, and she's like trying to take advantage of it, but there was a whole bunch of stuff there, like a lot of, I think she had like a restraining order and all this, everything, like she like got put for domestic abuse against her husband, all this.
Jeez.
So there's a lot of stuff there about that she potentially like killed her husband, which I mean it seems pretty plausible.
Ridiculous.
I mean you can't be like you gotta be a fucking idiot if you're taking aquarium cleaner.
Yeah, you
But he says it'll kill you on it.
Like you gotta at least like understand like what the treatment is that's working, and like from what I got caught from one of the oppressors that he was saying like, I think it was like 200 milligrams or something like that once a week, and then like just zinc and Zithromax, Zithro, I don't know how to pronounce it, but it was like something simple like that, and the zinc is supposed to help with the loss of taste, that's supposed to cure that, and the other one is supposed to help out with the other symptoms. So, like, there's a treatment right there, and they're saying, like,
We don't have a treatment. Panic. Kids are going to school. Kids are going to die. The kids are going to die. They're going to get everybody sick and die.
the kids have been getting everybody sick for freaking eons. I don't know if any of you out there, like, if you have kids, if you have, like, a big family, but I just know being from, like, a pretty large family, you'd go to a family party, and that's where you end up getting sick from. And it's always from the little kids going to school and catching something from somebody else. But like that's typically how it would always happen, right? I mean, I don't know if you noticed that growing up. The little guys always get everybody sick.
You're welcome.
Yeah, right? You're welcome. But yeah, no. Yeah, it's just wild to just when if you pay attention throughout this, like there's so many people that just avoid the news by all means. They don't have conversations. They don't talk about it. They're like scared to talk almost. It's like you shouldn't be scared to talk. There's nothing wrong with being wrong. Like there's a problem with not having the conversation. That's how everybody gets misinformed. And that's been going on mainstream throughout our media. They just misinform everybody. They want everybody scared to death, hiding in their house like Joe Biden in his basement, just cowering, just scared to go outside, wearing masks, just being outside with nobody around. Like that's just absurd. Nobody's getting sick like that, unless it's like a cold or something. But like you're not gonna catch somebody being in the middle of a field with no friggin' mask on. Like, come on, get real. And that's where it comes into it. Like, if Joe Biden's gonna call for a national mask mandate, you have to answer questions about the mask mandate. Okay, we got to know what you're talking about. You can't just say something and go running off back to your basement. And I don't know how people can honestly vote for that guy, given all that. I mean, it's just an endless list with that guy. I mean, I still can't believe he told a black American to his face that he ain't black. Like, he used those words. He ain't black.
He's not black for not voting for a white 80-year-old man. Like,
my God.
I was endorsed by the NAACP every single year I got elected.
And then the NAACP has to release a statement saying that they don't endorse anybody any year. That they don't support any political candidate. It's like, he just lied directly to your face. This is the same guy that used to plagiarize speeches back when he was younger too. So he hasn't been the sharpest tool in the shed his entire life. And just at this point in his life, it's really bad. Really bad.
I mean, what's sad is like, you don't have to like Trump, but how could you possibly vote for Biden? And this is not, I'm not trying to do, because I voted Republican that I'm trying to bash the Democrat. Like, I'm literally saying, like, it's common sense. How could you vote for Biden? The guy can't even read off a prompter. He literally looks like he should be in an old age home. Like, there's something wrong with him. How could you vote for him, like, to be the guy in charge? Like, he can't. Like, he can't read. Like, if he can't read, he can't even remember, like, what he did 2 seconds ago. Like, how is he supposed to run the country?
He doesn't know what town he's in when he's doing his speech.
Like, if he was Republican, I wouldn't vote for him. And I voted for Trump, who was a Republican.
He doesn't know which one is his wife.
Yeah.
When he's on the stage, here's my wife.
Yeah, he smells
Here's
the
my
6-year-old
sister.
girl.
Oh no, actually, no, you're my wife. I'm your sister. Oh, okay. Like, come on, guys. What? How?
Any point in the storm.
This is why I think we need to update our whole election system. Everything needs to be done digitally. We need to have mass verification systems. We need to have confirmations that you voted. Because I don't see how people actually voted for Joe Biden in the primary. I think it was set up and it was stolen away from one of the other contenders. Like,
Oh, it definitely was.
It just doesn't make sense to have him up front and forward.
I'm not a Bernie Sanders fan, but I think Bernie Sanders was leading the primaries there.
Oh, it wasn't even close. You're talking enthusiasm? Like, Joe has no enthusiasm whatsoever. How many Joe Biden signs do you see out there?
Well, Biden came in late, and then it was like every primary he was finishing towards the bottom, up and towards the end, where everybody dropped out, and then by default, Biden was like number one. And why would Bernie drop out? Bernie, I thought, was doing great. Why would he just drop out? Mm-hmm. And it seemed like it was fixed. I mean, you can't help it that being fixed. Like, why would you drop? Why would you want to be president? So you sign up to do the primaries, you're touring all around, and then you decide just to drop out when you're a front runner. Probably the guy clear ahead of everybody. Why would you drop out?
Maybe he made some cheddar cheese.
Just didn't make sense. Cheese. And then that other dude dropped out too. Forgot his name.
Buttigieg?
Yeah, he was doing okay.
Yeah.
He was up there too. There was no reason for him to drop out.
Hey, we could have had a first gay presidential candidate.
I would have taken any one of them over Biden. I mean, like I said, I'm not a Bernie Sanders fan, and I don't agree with anything that he wants to do. But he at least is somebody who knows what he's doing. He can at least read the fucking prompter.
He had enthusiasm behind him.
Yeah, he still has a brain to him.
And Biden just he didn't do much good under Obama. He hasn't done much good his whole entire career. He signed a crime bill that threw how many Black Americans in prison. He signed NAFTA, which threw how many jobs overseas. His record isn't good. It's not a good record. 5 decades of being a politician. Look at our congressional approval ratings. Congressional approval ratings have been in the dumpster for 20 years. And we're going to want somebody who is the epitome of a career politician taking over for the presidency? Like, come on. This is why we elected Trump for the presidency.
How does somebody be a career politician? Mm-hmm. What are the statistical chances of being a career politician?
Got to get a name and have people keep voting for that name.
You know, like, how is it like when you go to vote for the governor? Almost every time, they say, at least in New York, right? Mm-hmm. How many people are you really voting for? There's like usually 2.
Yeah.
You have Democrat, Republican. Maybe you get an independent on there. Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that? Why? And it's always the same person. So the current running governor is always there. How come there's nobody else? How come we can't vote for somebody else? It's not.
It's how the system is set up. It's set up so that, most people don't even know their local politicians, but they'll vote either Democrat or Republican just based off the party. So like I could be like this crazy out of control tyrant and declare myself a Democrat, get myself on a ticket in a primarily Democratic area, and automatically get the vote.
Yeah.
And I could be batshit crazy, like murdering people on the streets, but because I'm a Democrat and that's what people vote for, I win.
I don't understand how somebody stays in there for 30-something years. And there's even people that lose, mm-hmm. but then they still pop up in politics somewhere running something. I'm like, how? But you were in an election, you lost.
Yeah.
I don't believe that you should be able to run for another position while you're still serving a current position. I think they should make you have to finish your current position out, run for something else. Mm-hmm. Because otherwise you're basically abandoning your current job and while you're campaigning.
Switching careers.
And the only one I can see the only thing I could think of is that you have to vacate your job and then go and run for something else. Like, you shouldn't be able to do it while you're in office because you're not really doing your office duties. You're just running around the country campaigning or running around the state campaigning.
Exactly. I mean, you think AOC is doing her job when she's running around with the candidate? Campaigning with them? No, she's not doing her job. She's not taking care of her district. Like, come on. You just got to get real with that. You know, like if somebody's out doing something else, like that's where their attention is drawn. Do you think people were taking care of their districts while they were trying to fight impeachment in the House and Senate? No. Their constituents got neglected.
I'm talking about AOC. I saw AOC at with her brother in a bar.
Mm-hmm.
One time, so we went out for lunch, me and a buddy at work, and we see her, and she's there. She shows up with her brother. There's nobody around in this place, just us, and she's like talking and everything, talking with everybody else. She so different in person than what we see in politics. And you can say like, well, it's a facade, but I think it's not just a facade. I think that she's actually trying to sell herself, like she's acting on the politics. Like I don't think she actually believes any of that shit that she says. I think she's just trying to like hype herself up because she was so different in person.
She could be a
She didn't even sound. She was just an actor, and, you know. And I think a lot of them are like that, but you know, it's just for everybody who believes everything that they're seeing. It's all bullshit.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, and because she's retarded.
He's retarded.
And speaking of somebody, so this woman, this is pretty funny. She just had a thing the other day where she was talking about it's impossible to come from nothing and be somebody. Meanwhile, wasn't she just a waitress?
Yeah.
So how the fuck did she become a waitress into a center if it's impossible?
It was impossible, but I made it happen. Look up Dr. Ben Carson's story, who is the director of HUD. He grew up in the hood, single parent household, and living in like squalor in our country, and then he ended up being one of the top brain surgeons in the country, and now he's running HUD. It's like that's another story. It's like, what? If you're gonna say something like that, there's so much proof that shows completely against that. Like that's what's great about this country. We have the opportunity to make something of ourselves, and all it takes is just doing it. You know, you're not being held back for any reasons other than reasons that you decide are against yourself. You hold yourself back.
Yeah, I know plenty of people that came from nothing that made something of themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and I know plenty of minorities that went and became doctors and did other things, and nothing held them back at any step of the way.
Yeah.
The only thing that held them back would have been themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they put the time in, they put the work in, they got accepted into all the schools, they got, you know, accepted into their jobs, they're making great salaries. Like nobody stopped them along the way. There was no, you know, no systematic racism or whatever. There was no blockers there. Nobody kicked them out of school or any of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody allowed them not to vote or anything. You know, they got to do whatever they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And now they would be considered part of the problem because now it's not just that, you know, we're against minorities supposedly, but supposedly everybody who has money is racist and is against this country. And it's like, well, what about those people? They came from nothing as minorities, worked their asses off, and now, you know, now they're a success story. Now they're making money, and now they're considered the problem of the country.
The Democrats only exist by pitting two different classes of people against each other. That's what they've been doing for hundreds of years. They've been doing this forever. They pit classes against each other, and then it's divide and conquer. That's their way. That's what they do. That's what they've been doing forever. It's also a socialist playbook kind of thing. And it's just insane. Like socialism, they were depicting the rich and wealthy against the poor. And the poor had to rise up to dethrone the rich and wealthy and then take over their wealth. Because the rich and wealthy have been stealing from them their entire lives. That's kind of like the whole depiction behind it. And now in today's day and age, they were able to separate several different groups and group them out. I was what book was I was watching. I was reading D'Souza's new book, The United States of Socialism, and he was talking a little bit about this. And he's like, they created all these classes to depict two opposing sides going at it, and you're either on this side or that side, and that's it. There's no middle road, and it's just this side is a victim, and they're being oppressed by this side, and they have to overcome this side, and it's a constant divisionist battle. It's like
the problem with socialism too is that everybody is used to like what we have now. They can go out and they can buy what they want, and if they get election money, they can go and they reap the reward from it. And they can go out and try to make more money. They can do whatever they want to do in terms of money. You know, the world's your oyster. But the problem with socialism,
Was that the world's your oyster?
the world's an oyster.
The world is
Like-
your oyster.
But you can go and do socialism, and it sounds great. Whereas like, oh, everybody's gonna spread the wealth, but that's not really how it goes. The way socialism works, and this is why it's always so bad, is that all the money goes to the top. So instead of there being anybody can kind of build up and take a risk and own a business and make their money and etc. Now it's in a socialism, the government's taking a huge portion of your money, and that's to fund things like universal healthcare and all of that. And they give more power to the government too, because now the government's controlling all this. They're getting in all the money from the taxes and all that. So what do you think happens? It ends up being a dictatorship, because now they have all the money and all the power. And that's why socialism always turns to dictatorship. You look at any country that does socialism, it always turns to dictatorship.
Or they give up their socialism.
Yeah.
And they switch back to a capitalistic market, which a lot of these countries have done. And just with how diverse our country is, like if we tried to take this angle, we're going to end up Venezuela. And look how great Venezuela is doing right now.
Breadlines are great. My name is Bernie Sanders. I think breadlines are amazing.
Do you like breadlines?
I like breadlines. It's amazing to be able to have breadlines, lines where you get bread and you get to eat your bread, your little chips. It's kind of like going to church, and at the end of the church you get your little offering and drink the blood and all that. We'll give you bread. Enjoy your breadlines.
Not here. Not here. That's just... Breadlines are good. Yeah, Bernie actually said that. That was one of the things.
Breadlines are good.
Yeah.
Yeah, breadlines always makes sense.
He actually... He was talking about that once. The guy who honeymooned in Moscow and was raving and ranting about the train stations.
Who can say that? Breadlines are good.
Bernie Sanders.
Like, how the fuck is that?
Exactly.
What the fuck?
How the fuck is that good? Like, there's people. I know when I was reading D'Souza's book, because D'Souza came from India, where they had like all sorts of issues when he was growing up, and then when he came here, one of his most intriguing like first visits was going to a grocery store and just seeing the variety of food you can pick up and eat. And that is the glories of capitalism. So why would you want socialism? Why would you want a government controlling what you can and can't eat? I mean, let alone what government programs have been working, these socialist programs. What does the government do good? You got public education. Where's that? How's public education doing, Paulie?
Like shit.
Like shit. How's our welfare state?
Like shit.
How do you think government-run healthcare is going to be?
Like shit.
Like shit.
Who goes to DMV and is like, oh, I had a great time?
DMV was awesome.
Can you imagine what a doctor's office is going to be like?
My God. Could you imagine what a doctor's office is going to be like?
Do anything with the government sucks. And now you want to have them in control of your health?
What they do is they take all this money, they create all this bureaucracy, and then you have to pass through all these loops in order to get decisions made for you. And it's like...
You know how bad it is in other
take
countries?
the freedom.
Other countries always talk about, like, everybody's like, oh, it's so great here, it's so great there. But, like, if you go to those other countries and you look, like, if you go to the United Kingdom, they have universal healthcare. Problem is they also have private healthcare, which nobody knows about. So everybody who has money, or people that don't want to wait 6 months and they want to get good doctors, they all go through private healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
Because those doctors want to actually make money, and they don't want to deal with the fucking disaster of the government, and they provide a better care.
Yeah.
They give everybody top of the line stuff. They get you in and get you out. It's all better doctors because the pay's better. I mean that's why one of the reasons why charter schools are better than public schools, because they pay more. So where are the good teachers going to go?
Exactly.
You know, and they're going to try harder to keep their jobs because they're making that much more. They're going to look at them like, I don't want to go to a public school. I'm going to stay right here, my nice cushy charter school, my preppy ass kids.
Exactly. Let alone you see the lines for these charter schools. They're like down the block and around the corner when they're doing their admissions and whatnot, because people see and they know what works.
I heard there's a big push now too in Canada, where Canada's trying to go back to a healthcare system like ours.
Yeah.
That they want to revert because they're going bankrupt.
And like a lot of the problems from what I can see in our country is because we tried implementing socialism and it's coming to a head where it's becoming so much of a problem that we need to remove socialism, not add more to it. Honestly, like just looking at the welfare state. The welfare state destroyed family households around the country. In particular, destroyed Black American family households, taking it from a 20% rate to over a 70% rate. White American households went from single digits to over 30% now. So it's like this has negatively affected everybody. I call it slavery 2.0 because you get a government check, you can't get married, and we're going to pay for your kids, we're going to pay for your food, we're going to give you shelter. Here's a public housing plantation. That's what I call them. They're not project buildings. They're public housing plantations. We're just going to shove a couple thousand people inside here. You're going to live in these buildings. There's not too many jobs around, but you got a government check coming in, so you're going to be good. You're going to be all right. And then just how this adds into it. So if they can't have a husband inside the house, otherwise they don't get their check, what do you think they're going to do? They're not going to get married. You're going to have kids raised in a single-parent household. When you're raised in a single-parent household, you're 20 times more likely to end up in prison, especially when you're in a big building with everybody else doing the same thing. What do you think is going to happen? You're not going to produce good human beings out of these areas. It's going to be rare. You're going to produce a lot of people who are going to feel like that they've been held down their entire lives, because they have. They've been held down by the Democrat Party and these policies. And these policies need to be reversed. They need to be reversed, eliminated. We need to move people out of the projects, not put more people in them. They're still building public housing plantations in Democrat cities around the country. Look at AOC's district. Most of her district is public housing plantations. It's crazy. Absolutely insane to think about. And then on top of that, like you expect them to be able to get a good education. You're shoving thousands of people into a school now, coming out of these public housing plantations, where they're not held accountable at home. So what do they think they're going to do at school? And where do you think they're going to look to for leadership? They're going to end up in a gang. And then what happens when you're in a gang? And it was 7,500 dead Black Americans every single year. It's this vicious cycle that was created to hold people down. And these people continue to vote Democrat in the 90th percentile, which makes no sense whatsoever when you're voting directly for your slave masters. That's kind of what it boils down to. You're voting for your oppressors. The Democratic Party has been oppressing you for decades, and everybody's oblivious to it. Insane.
My thing is, like, has welfare actually helped anybody? Because when you think about it, what were people doing before welfare, excuse me?
Churches, charities.
I mean, people didn't have money, but it seemed like they were in a hell of a lot better situation.
Yeah,
I mean, you look at any video of, like, any minority community prior to the 60s, and then after. I mean, look at present day, and you're like, what the fuck happened?
Yeah, the disaster. It's a disaster. These kids aren't getting educated. They're ending up in the prison system. The prisons are clogged up. It's just like you created a vicious cycle. Then we're going to tag you with a felony. When you get out of prison, where can you get a job? People don't like to hire felons. You end up going right back into crime again. You end up right back in jail again. Vicious cycle. This is big business here. This is Democrat money. This is how they get paid.
I mean, something happened, because if you look at, you don't need to know any statistics. You can take the politics out of it. All you can do is you can look at any video from at any point before the 60s, whether it's the 50s, the 40s, the 30s, the 20s, and then you can look at videos from the 70s, 80s, 90s, up to the present day, and you can see the trend just drop. You can literally see the demise, and something happened, and so we can sit there and try to figure out what happened and have that discussion, but we have to all admit something happened there.
And you're not racist for having the discussion. A conversation cannot be racist unless I'm specifically picking at you and attacking you for your race. That would be racist.
Yeah, and
talking about it is not racist.
I am not racist, but I think that I know everybody keeps talking about doing more of the same thing, but the same thing isn't working. We were doing the same thing since the 60s, so you're talking 50 years worth, or actually no more, 70, is it 70 or 60? 60 years. Jesus Christ, my math's up. See, the public education, 60 years of the same shit, and you can literally just see it getting worse and worse. Like, it hasn't done anything. How long do we run this experiment for? Do we need another 60 years? Do we have to give it more money? At what point do we say, like, all right, this was just a bad idea, it didn't work?
Yeah, and
You
then
know?
it comes down to a point like, what do you do?
Like, let's try something different.
What do you do? And like my idea is like, okay, you pull people out of here that have specific skills. You move them to some land. You have them build new communities for themselves that can be self-sustaining, and get them the hell out of their projects. I think that'd be a good idea. On top of incentivizing marriage instead of incentivizing single motherhood. Good idea for a little switch. I mean, that's at least the gist of my idea. Simple, yet I think that could be effective switch. And of course, you don't just cut everybody off, but you give them an incentive to better themselves. But yeah, I think we've been at it for a good hour and change now. I could talk all night about everything and all these issues. The last thing I want to get into is just my interpretation on what's going to happen in the next week or so. I'm calling this now. This is my prediction. All right. You're going to have the DNC convention go down. And right when it's occurring, there's going to be arrests. There's going to be some prominent people that were on Mueller's team getting arrested. Or it's going to be Jim Comey getting arrested. But it's going to start happening. It's going to start happening fast. And then not too long after it, Trump is going to have the vaccine. And it's going to be over. It's going to be over for the Democrats this year. They're going to get completely annihilated after that happens. If Trump has the vaccine, or even just like a proven therapeutic that just shuts this thing down, and the arrests start happening for all the misdeeds done during the Mueller investigation, then it's over. It's over for the Democrats this year. That's my prediction. That's what I'm going with. I'm thinking it's going to happen right during the convention, if not directly after it. So nobody's talking about what they've spoken in the convention, and Trump takes control of the entire media, the media universe, right then and there. But that's it. That's what we'll leave it at for tonight. But it's been fun as usual, right? So I'll leave you with this. You've been watching Can He Be Unchained? Can you be unchained? Peace.